Hi, welcome to this week's A to Z. It's Charlie Mack here, and this week we're in London, and it's Q. Now, Q for what? Well, it could be Q for queer, because strange things happen in London. I mean, only a few minutes ago I was walking across the road and somebody shouted me, and I turned around and it was a friend from Vietnam, from Hanoi, one of my colleagues from Vietnam Television, and she just says, "Hi Charlie, fancy meeting you here." Queer, strange things happen in London, and nothing stranger than what's happening behind me. This is a result of a company called Icebox, and this took 4 weeks to create, and it took several hours to put together. And it's a celebration of being able to be open again after the horrible time we've had of COVID. Strange things happen, queer things happen in London. We're going to look at a few more right now. Our day in London has got to start off with my favourite place. And my favourite place in the whole of this beautiful big city is Covent Garden. This is A to Z, and we're asking Q for questions, right? And one of the big questions is, why is it called Covent Garden? So, the name Covent Garden actually comes from the name Convent Garden, because back in the 1500s, this whole area, the Jubilee Hall, the streets round about, this whole area was a market garden for the monks of Westminster Abbey. Over the years, the name got changed to Covent Garden, as we like to shorten things here in Britain. But this area has seen some changes. During the day, it was a beautiful flower garden and market. At night time, it was one of the biggest red light areas in London. I mean, nowadays people think of Soho round the corner. But here, Covent Garden was a place where the lady of the night plied their trade. Today, these days are gone, and it's just a beautiful tourist attraction. As I said, my favourite part. But does that answer your question? Why is it called Covent Garden? Let's think of a few more questions we can ask in London. So here we are in Leicester Square, in the heart of London's West End. 2 weeks ago, Leicester Square was famous for, well, you could say football, as this place was filled with 20 or 30,000 Scottish football supporters that came down for the big game against England. But today, Leicester Square is famous for something else. It's celebrating 30 years of the cinema, because right here in Leicester Square is where the first ever cinema opened in London and in the UK. And to celebrate 30 years of cinema, I'm going to ask a question. What famous statues would you put to celebrate cinema here in Leicester Square? Like Paddington Bear. And Mr. Bean. And you can shelter from the rain under Mary Poppins. Or I can be singing in the rain with Gene Kelly. Chanting Chan Ali, or in Chinese, where can I buy food? Well, if you're in this end of London, the best place to buy food is in Chinatown. Okay, so we're going to go up to Chinatown, and we're going to ask a few questions like, where is the best dim sum? Where is the best salamao? Where can we eat some good quality Chinese food? I'm in Wong Kai restaurant, which is one of the best restaurants in Chinatown. And drinking jasmine tea, always a good idea on a hot day, and eating Cantonese duck, which is a variation on Beijing duck. And actually more tastier. Well, I enjoyed that. Why a Chinese community? There's a question for you. Well, believe it or not, the first Chinese community in Britain started in Liverpool, around the dock area. That's usually where Chinese communities tend to begin. In London, the first Chinese community back in the 1800s was in Limehouse, which is way to the east of London. But during the war, it got destroyed, and after the war, there was a community of Chinese people in London that needed somewhere to live. This part of London, well, it had always been a bit run down. It was cheap, the accommodation was easy to get hold of, and so the Chinese community moved in here. And as they moved in, so did the culture, and especially the food. Soldiers returning from war, returning from the Far East, sailors returning from China, had already got a liking for Chinese food. And so coming here became a habit. And before we knew it, we've got a thriving Chinatown here in central London, as it is today, where you can come and we've just spent £16 and we've had a meal for three. It's not bad, is it? So, question, where can you get a decent meal in London for a good price? Answer, Chinatown. If you ask me the biggest department store I've been to, I'd probably say Macy's or Bloomberg's. If you ask me the best department store, the classiest department store I've ever been to in the world, it's got to be Harrods in Knightsbridge. And that's where I'm off now, to ask a few more questions. Follow me in. So we're inside Harrods now, and this is the cosmetics department. Not that I'll be getting any cosmetics, but you can just see the pure elegance of the whole place. And you know, it was all started in 1824 by a guy called Charles Henry Harrod, and he started in Stepney with a grocer's shop, and it became this in 1889. Just imagine that. Here's a question for trivia. When Harrods opened, one of their main boasts was it had the world's first escalator, or as they called it, the world's first moving staircase. Over the years, Harrods has become first in many things, including the Peter Rabbit films. Do you remember that? This is the chocolate department. This is Holly's favourite part, isn't it? Why do you like the chocolate department, Holly? Because she likes to see different kinds of chocolate. There's over 1,000 different types of chocolate here today. But again, that's what makes Harrods special.
Harrods chocolate is so yummy.
If you've ever been asked the question, who's the most famous bear in the world, you might get one or two answers. Yogi Bear, Teddy Bear. But you know, if you come to London, there's only one answer. Michael Bond wrote his best-selling children's book, A Bear Called Paddington, in 1958, which makes Paddington Bear a staggering 62 years old, although you wouldn't guess it, would you? Right here in the spot where the statue is where the 2013 movie Paddington was filmed. And today children from all over the world come to the station and see the statue and pose for photographs. Because he is, after all, Britain's most famous bear. Well, that concludes our trip to London. Q is for questions. We asked a few questions today. We asked, what is Leicester Square famous for these days? We asked, why did a little shopkeeper called Harry Harrod become the founder of one of the biggest shops in the world? We asked, who's the most famous bear in Britain today? We asked a lot of questions. Hopefully we gave some answers. But you will have questions as well, especially at this time. You will be saying, why is COVID happening? Why are we going through another phase? Why is it spiked? Why have we been told we can take our masks off? Why are some people keeping them on and some people taking them off? I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you something. There's one person who has got the answers, that's God. And in his book, the Bible, turn to it, because in these pages you will find the answers to everything. No matter what the question, no matter how seemingly difficult it is, open the pages of that book and read with an open mind and allow God through his Holy Spirit to speak to you. There is not a question he cannot answer. There's not a problem he cannot solve. Trust me, I've asked him myself. Pastor Charlie, on A to Z of being me, on London. Take care, and I'll see you soon.